Hello there. How very exciting that we're going to work on the album cover. All right, so a quick change before we get to the album cover. So I decided that I'm not binding my album with a hinge, and I'll tell you why. So I removed the pocket from the back, right? I removed it. So remove yours if you created it already. If you haven't, then what we're going to do with this pocket is we're going to attach it to what would be the front. Remember I said I wasn't sure what I was doing in the front? Well, here you go, guys. This is what we're doing in the front. All right, so I removed my pocket. I have to add tape again. And because there's no hinge here, there's no flap to stick it down. We're just going to glue it, all right? Because it's no longer a binding pocket. It is just now a pocket. All right, so and I'll show you right now. So we're removing B and we're attaching it to what would be the back of C. This is the back of C, okay? So we're going to attach that here, one side only first, because remember we have to add a little bit of glue because there's nothing to seal it here. So now you're going to take your glue and you're just going to do that and then bring it on over, my friends, and seal it and stick. And now I can go ahead and mat this piece. Remember, oh, this way. Remember I was reluctant to mat because I just wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I do these things for a reason because you can't tell sometimes what kind of life the project is going to take on until you actually get into the nitty-gritty. You know, I make projects one time. I don't make projects 2 or 3 times. As you all know, I never have samples. All right? Like with the Mirabella project, I'm sure many of you want to know what the heck I'm making. All I can tell you is that it's going to be fabulous because I'm not making it twice. Not doing it, my friends. I can't. I'll never finish. All right, so like I have no use for this tab now because this is a straight edge. So I'm going to just, you can cut that off, but I'm just going to stick it inside like that. And finish that matting. Okay, there you go. So now this binding pocket is on the front instead of the back. The back is where you have this tie, and that's all just going to get glued to the album cover. All right. So let me just show you. I took that binding pocket off of the back of A. All right, I don't want to confuse anything. So you're going to take that off the back of A, and you're going to put it on the outside or back of C, because this is the front of C, right? Right here. This is your C part. And that's the back of C. This is the front of C. Okay? Hopefully that all makes sense. Sorry for the change. But it had to be done, people. So this is going to be gorgeous when you open your book and you see this. Okay? All right, let's get to the album cover. So you've got your chipboard pieces, your measurements for your chipboard pieces, and then you have your measurements for what I call your card stock wrap. All right, in this case is manila folders. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your tape and you're going to use your spine piece, the piece for the spine, and you're going to line it with tape going lengthwise. All right, the tallest side, like so. Tape, you want it as close to the edge as possible without going over. Then you're going to take the larger pieces and stick one to the right and the left hand side. So you're going to overlap, creating one long continuous piece. All right. Right here. So now you're going to take this piece and you're going to overlap it by the thickness of your tape. I'm using 3/8 of an inch, but you can, this is size to overlap by a 1/2 inch, up to a 1/2 inch if you want, okay? So if you want to overlap by a 1/2 inch, you can. Do not overlap by a 1/4 of an inch. It's just not enough, guys. It's not going to come apart, but it's just not enough. Okay, now we're going to work with our chipboard pieces. So just give this a good burnish. You want to make sure that that's nice and adhered properly. When you're using double-sided tape, friction is what really makes that stick, okay? So now you have your front and back covers and your spine. All right. Typically, we use Tyvek to reinforce the spine to attach to make our album cover. But now that I have the fabulous P3 tape in my shop, I'm not saying Tyvek will become obsolete in my projects, but I no longer need it to make my album covers. All right. So you want to cut 2 pieces of your tape. It is a fabric tape. Please do not confuse it with gaffer tape. I think it's gaffer tape. Do not confuse it with gaffer tape because it is nothing like it. Do not confuse it with masking tape because it is nothing like it. It's super thin, as thin as Tyvek, but it is a fabric. All right, it has fabric properties to it. So it's really good, guys. All right, so it's in my shop. You get 33 yards of it in one roll, and it's 1.5 inches wide, okay? 1.5 inches wide, so feel free to pick up a roll and test it, see if you love it. So there it is. So it's fabric, and I love it. It's super thin, which is what I love about it the most. So now you're going to take your spine piece, okay, like so, and you're going to overlap it by about 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. Just overlap it. Remember, you need room on the other side. And then you're going to have another piece on the other side. And if you're interested in watching me demo this tape, I use it in the stationery box. So if you picked up the stationery box project, this is what I use to construct the stationery box. Okay. Which will replace Tyvek in some instances, not always. If I need like a really giant piece to cover something, I'm still going to use Tyvek because I'm not going to waste the tape, patching it up. It just makes no sense to do something like that. But for where I can replace it, I will. And for those of you who it's hard to find Tyvek, I ship all over the world, so you will be able to get this tape. All right. And 5 rolls 5 rolls of tape fit in one medium flat rate box if you want to maximize on that shipping, and otherwise just pick one up to see if you love it. I know you're going to love it, so I am confident. All right, so we've got the tape on, and that's what it looks like on the back. Now you want to use a spacer tape, and you don't have to use a spacer tape because it's sticky. I have to use a spacer tape because I can't glue anything on straight for the life of me. All right, so you're using a 3/8 inch spacer tape. Your spacer tape should go on the black, not on the chipboard, but it should be so close to the chipboard you shouldn't see anything. There should be no space in between. 0, 0, 0 space in between. Okay. All right, there we go. So now we have our spacer tape. Now we're going to attach our album cover right and left hand side. Butt it up right against that spacer tape. There should be no space in between. All right, and then butt it up right against your spacer tape. Again, no space in between, please. None. 0. Flip it over. This has an amazing stick. But again, as with dry adhesive, my recommendation is to always burnish because this friction is what makes it stick. All right, so you have yourself an album cover. All right, now we can prepare this with tape so that we can stick it to our file folder wrap. And I use really wide tape because it's just easier. It's faster. All right, so we're going to get that on there. And over here. Okay. And then we're going to get one right there. And one more, guys. One more. It's just too perfect. Look at that. Look at that. How perfect was that? This is 2.5-inch roll. Okay. All right. So there it is. Now we're going to remove the tape backing. Let's get some burnishing action going. Now we can remove the tape backing and stick it down to our album, to our cardstock wrap. We're using file folders, but it is it would be what we typically call a cardstock wrap. So you can remove the tape backing. If you're using a narrow tape like a 3/8 inch tape or a 1/4 inch tape, I recommend a tape and glue combo because you're just going to waste so much tape. But so I would do tape, around 2 strips of tape around the perimeter, and then I would do the rest glue, or I would just slap the whole thing with tape, guys, because that's just what I prefer. In order to avoid your cardstock from cracking, so what you want to do is you want to center this to the spine, right? And you want to stick down the spine. Okay? Then when it's time for you to do the front and back covers, you want to put your hand under, drop that cover, and then go down. Okay? You want to create a little bit of room, drop the cover, and then down. If you stick it down when the cardstock wrap is in, and oh, I just realized you can't see the cardstock wrap. When the cardstock wrap is flat, you don't leave enough wiggle room in the spine so that the cardstock can stretch properly. It's stretching to the max if it's in the flat position. If you lift it up a little bit, you're giving it a little bit of an elastic band here as opposed to a belt. All right. So hopefully that analogy works. Let me see what I can do, because you can't see this, and I apologize, but there it is, guys. Okay. There it is. Now we're going to put tape around the perimeter of the album cover. Trying to see what I've got here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to put a black background because I need you to see this. So there it is. Now let's put our tape around the perimeter of we'll just call it cardstock. It's file folder material, but let's call it cardstock for now because I'm just so used to saying cardstock, I can't train myself to say something else. Let me just get my keyboard out of here. Sorry about that. I did not realize you were not going to be able to see that. So we must fix it. And I am not big on editing, so this is what happens, guys. Live TV. It's Saturday night. I kid. I don't know if I should be saying that. Oh my goodness. I'm in big trouble now. Like, the big Saturday Night Live moguls watch my YouTube channel. Too funny. All right. Tape, guys. Tape it up. I use a 1/2-inch tape for this. If I can find it. But again, you can use what you have. I just have all sorts of sizes because it just makes my life easier. All right, so what I like to do is I like to do tape 1 around the perimeter of the chipboard and then 1 around the perimeter of the cardstock, parallel to the edge without going over the edge, right? So right here. Alrighty, so around here, let me just do this. It's fine. It's faster, and I don't have to be neat about it, so that's why I'm using my fingers. All right, so that's around the perimeter of the chipboard close to the edge, and now around the perimeter of the cardstock close to the edge. Alrighty. And we're just about done here. This one, I can't turn my arm that way, so we can do that. And last side, right here. Every time I see my head in the camera, it looks like my hair is a hot mess. I promise, I comb my hair, guys. I promise. It looks crazy. I have so many flyaways. All right, let's burnish, my friends. Especially around the perimeter of that chipboard, because if not, when you pull the tape backing off, a layer of chipboard likes to tag along. And it's uninvited, that layer of chipboard. We don't like that. Right in here. And then around the perimeter of your cardstock, please. All right, so now we're going to remove the tape backing around the perimeter of the entire piece, including the spacer tape. All right, so let's get to it, people. Removing the tape backing carefully, because again, a layer of chipboard always likes to tag along. So I don't like to start in the corner. I kind of start around the center area, not in the center, but away from the corner, so that chipboard in the corner will not tag along. Again, it's uninvited. Okay. See, I started over here in the corner and it lifted. See that? So what you have to do for that is you must put a little bit of glue and glue it back into place. Okay? Remember, your foundation must be perfect. Okay? If that is lifted and you are sticking this onto that, it's really not sticking because it's lifted. All right? It's going to stick to the lifted part and not good. So, before you remove your tape here, my bad, we have to miter. All right? So, cutting on the diagonal. And for an album cover, you want to cut at least 1/4 of an inch away from the corner. So if you want to make a pencil mark at approximately 1/4 of an inch away, all right? I do a little less than 1/4, but 1/4 is a good rule of thumb. So I made that little pencil mark. Darn it. Let's see. There it is. Approximately 1/4 of an inch away from the corner. And now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to line it up with that pencil mark on the diagonal and cut. Okay? I've been doing this for years and I do all sorts of different techniques to achieve the perfect corner wrap. And let me tell you, usually when I do it by hand like this, I don't get it. But ever since I've been doing the pencil mark, I've been getting it. This tool right here is foolproof. This is created by Darlene, and it's Darlene by Heart on her Etsy shop. This tool is foolproof. You'll get a perfect corner every time. I don't know why. Sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. I don't understand. But it is what it is, my friends. But if you want a foolproof method to get a perfect corner, just get the tool. I get absolutely nothing. I have no affiliation with Darlene by Heart other than that we're crafters and we hang out together on Fridays online. That's what I got, people. All right, my friends. Let's start the fold. So what you want to do is train your paper to fold over. Okay. Whoops, I hit my camera. I apologize for the mini earthquake. All right, now that I've got those trained, now you want to train further by slightly just kind of training that paper to fold without sticking it. All right, once your paper stays folded, right? Once it stays folded and you're sure that you got it really tight around that edge of the chipboard, then and only then, that's when you go in for the stick and you press down. Okay, that's it. Okay, and now you want to pinch right there in the center so that the cardstock and the tape make contact. Okay, and you want to burnish against the corner of the edge of the spine, and then you want to burnish against the corner or the edge of the, not the corner, the edge of the front cover. I got to tell you, the only downside to the stinking cheesecloth is that you get cheesecloth flyaways everywhere. All right. And then the same thing here against the edge of the spine, and then again the edge of the back cover. All right, so train that. And now you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, so you want to train the paper. Nice and snug around the edges, really tight around that edge. You don't want there to be any spaces in between. Now you go in for the stick. All right, and you just have to use your own judgment as to whether or not you think that it's time, right? There is really no right or wrong way. The reason why I like you to train the paper to fold is because I don't want, give me a second, I can't talk and do this at the same time, give instruction. You don't want to burnish here along the edge of the album cover and for there to be a kink. All right, you don't want that. That's not good. All right, you don't want that. All right, so now, because we mitered 1/4 of an inch away from each corner of the album cover, the cardstock, you'll notice, will wrap around that corner. You won't see the corner. You shouldn't be able to see the corner. If you see the corner, you screwed up, okay? Just like when we wrap a gift and we get to the corners, we tuck it in, right? We tuck and then we burnish with our hands to create a flat surface with that paper. You're going to do the same thing. Okay, so you're going to tuck. I use my nail. And tuck. And then with your burnishing tool, you make a nice flat surface. And you should not be able to see your corner. Your corner should be wrapped in. And now you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to train the paper to fold all the way around before you stick. Okay, and then you go in there and you stick it down. And you should have a perfectly wrapped corner. And I should say, dare I say, mine looks pretty darn good. I like to give it a quick little smack there because we do have a few layers of paper, right? So we're folding that in, right? We're tucking it in. Then we're creating a flat surface. So we have multiple layers of paper here now that we're doing this. So you want to give it a little smack to flatten it as much as possible. Okay, so again, folding, folding, training that paper, babes. Train that paper. Sometimes I use my bone folder because in those corners I stab myself with the paper. You think that my hands would be callousy by now with all of the crafts that I do and the rubbing. On the contrary, they're still very delicate. All right, so we've got ourselves an album cover, guys. Look at that. How fabulous. So go ahead and burnish again against the edges. Okay, and now you're going to cut another piece of material, of whether that be cardstock or this, whatchamacallit. And I want you to measure. I'm not giving you a measurement for this. I want you to measure, because depending on how you place your paper on that cardstock wrap, if it's not perfectly centered, you're going to have a different measurement than I will, okay? I mean, it'll be the same, but because no matter if you're longer here and short over here, it's still going to be the same measurement. However, just measure. All right, I want you to measure because I don't want you to overlap it. Ideally, I don't want you to overlap. Okay, so it's looking like mine is a little bit over just slightly under 8 3/4 inches, okay? Slightly under. So I'm going to my 8 3/4 inch mark, and I'm just going to go slightly under, not quite 8 5/8 of an inch, okay? Not quite. So I'm going to test it. And I feel like I can just, you see what I mean? See how you can, there's a void here, but there's no void there. Just measure, guys. All right, so now what I want you to do is I want you to apply glue. The measurement really doesn't matter. You just want it to go all the way across this area right here with at least an inch this side and an inch this way. So just notice I just grabbed this piece, and as long as it goes all the way over, I'm a happy camper. Okay, so you're going to glue around the perimeter everywhere. Now, it's important that you follow this instruction. You're going to attach it to one side and one side only. Ideally, you don't want it to overlap, but if it overlaps, you know, it is what it is, especially at the top. Okay? Then what you want to do is you want to burnish into that along the edge of the front cover first. All right, so fold so you can see the edge of the front cover. And then along the spine. And then you stick it down here. And then you want to burnish along the edge of the spine. Right, and then against the edge of the cover. And then stick it down. All right, see how crazy that looks? So it just like really doesn't matter. Some cases you may have to overlap because you don't want to have a big old gap. But like I'm matting, I don't care. I'm matting past that so it doesn't bother me. I just like to get a really nice strong spine. And burnish. And you can use tape for this if you want to. You don't want to mess with the glue. Okay, and you're done, my friends. Okay. So now I'm going to get some, I'm going to leave it in this folded position just for a little bit until it dries, and then I will stretch it out, okay? So I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to pick my paper, and we will move on to the next step. I attached some tape here, right? And it's pretty, just slightly under that patch of cardstock that we put down. I've got my decorative paper, and I'm obsessed with this green. I did tape because it's just going to be faster for me to stick this down than having to wait for it to dry. I don't want it to have to wait till it dries. So I'm going to put some glue around the perimeter. This paper measures the height of your page, right? The height of your pages, and then over the spine, okay? About an inch over the spine. So you want to put glue around the perimeter. So remember the height of your pages, or your page assembly in this case, right? Now burnish the tape. Make sure it's attached before you start pulling it off and you start prying layers of other things off that you don't want to do. And I put the glue down first because I like my glue to get a little bit tacky. I don't know why this is doing that, but it wants to be a pain in my butt. Okay. Oh, it's me apparently cutting it. It's me. User error. Now I'm going to leave a comment. Score tape backing sucks. And it's my fault. Score tape backing sucks. All right, here we go. So this is going to line up with your pages, okay? With your pages. So we typically like an eighth, and I'm going to stick my head in here, okay? Give me a second, because I like everything to look pretty. All right, that looks good. So stick it down in the middle. And remember, we have to burnish into the spine, the gussets. Okay, or that spacer tape, I guess I should say. We have to burnish in there. That's important. If you don't burnish in there, when you're opening and closing your book, it's going to lift. All right, so now we're going to let that dry. Okay, and once that dries, then we're going to go in and attach our page assembly. All right, so lots of burnishing, okay? Lots of burnishing without tearing into your pages or into your spine. Although we have it reinforced, you'll never tear through the spine unless you stab it with a knife, right? However, you can still crack through your cardstock if you're not careful with your burnishing, okay? So careful, careful, careful. All right, beautiful. Now for the cover for your pages, we're going to stick this down here, and I want you to notice that my tab is inside the album cover. Okay, in this case, I don't want my tabs out. So what you should have is 1/8 of an inch from the tab, not from this side, because this looks like a lot of space, right? From the tab. And we're going to mat some more, but I just want you to get familiar with this, okay? All right, so everything should be within. It should line up with this green paper if you're using green, okay? Yeah, and that looks great. So you can either do paper or you can ink it, and I'm going to ink it up and perhaps do a little stenciling on that edge. I'm not lining that with paper. All right, this side with paper because it's unnecessary. But if you want to do paper, by all means, because it's just a little teeny bit that shows. All right, I'm using that same yellow, especially because the whatchamacallit. Oh, I lost my train of thought, guys. The paper's so dark, so I try to brighten it up with this yellow, this gold color. It says it's the Fossilized Amber. It's just a beautiful, beautiful yellow. Yellow goldy color. I love it so much. All right, so just ink around that before we attach our page assembly. So absolutely beautiful. All right, I decided that my closure for this album is not going to be attached to my book on the inside. It'll be attached on the outside. So you will see that. All right, guys. So I highly recommend a combo of tape and glue because tape makes it stick immediately. Alrighty. I hope I did this right. I did not. Right over that. I really thought I had the right measurement, but I didn't. You don't have to sit there and hold it for so long. I'll use that for something else. So burnish that tape really well, please. Especially over that fabric. Then we're going to use glue. All right, so I'm going to stick my tab down. There's absolutely no need for me to have to insert something in that back panel. You know, I don't need another insertion point in the back panel. Come on, come to mama. Make sure you don't have no hard pieces of glue if you have to squeeze really hard to get the glue out. All right, and then you do want to put glue over the tape, which will allow you to move your book around if you need to. All right. And the moment of truth. I love this part. Ah! All right, so nice and even. Remember, we already did a dry run. We want to stick this down and line up with the paper we have in place, with the green paper. You should be 1/8 of an inch away from this edge and 1/8 of an inch away from the top. It should be all perfectly lined up. All right, and it is, my friends. Now carefully, carefully, carefully open your book. Carefully open your book and burnish the heck out of this. All right, so you have to do it in, you know, kind of like stages, because we have all of this going on here, right? And you can open everything and burnish if you want to. Ooh, don't break anything. Like, you can open this and, you know, hit it right here under that fabric, because that you really want to make sure you burnish. And then under here, burnish. You can open here and burnish. Or if you want to be really smart and you haven't made this yet, you can attach these pockets last and you can burnish the heck out of it. All right. But this was not my plan initially. Remember, I was going to have a binding, but the binding would not work. And I'll tell you why. Oh, I forgot it. Oh, what is that? I forgot I had a magnet under there. I will tell you why the binding would have not worked, guys. The hinge binding. And it's better for me to show you than to tell you. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pretty confident that that's going to stick and that everything's going to be beautiful. So now you have to let it dry. I cannot stress it enough that you must let this dry before you continue. So the reason why I feel that the hinge binding would not work with this project is because when you have to flip it over, the whole thing over, right, to get to that back page, it's not going to lay right on the spine. It's just not. Okay, so you have to think about those things. Look at that, how absolutely perfect that is. How beautiful that looks in there. And look at all of that space we have. Even though there's not a lot of space in this gusset right here, in this 1-inch gusset, you can still fill it up and you won't have alligator mouth because this cover will avoid that. And then we're going to do something fabulous here in terms of pockets. So I'm going to move it just ever so gently. All right, so you can see how fabulous this is. My goodness. So that opens up, and when it's dry, of course, you can flip it under if you want to. That's the beauty of this project. Look at that. And it's not even full, it's matted. It's not fully embellished yet. Okay? Look at that. And hopefully I won't mess up my camera. There we go. And then this opens up, right? You've got a pocket here. This folds down. And then you have this. And let's be careful. We don't have anything holding everything nice and tidy. We have that. We have this, and all of this action going on. And then we can go one more time. And we have this action going on here. Amazing. And let's not forget this action right here. I'm going to bring this down. Here's what I love about this. Well, look. You can fold it up. I just leave it open so you can see everything, but it folds beautifully. That goes up this way, and then when you're done, this folds this way and like this. I have to work within the constraints of my camera that's right above me without hitting it, but you don't. So when you're messing with this, it's going to be perfection, okay? That I guarantee you. I don't like designing junk, okay? I hate it when things don't work. And hate is a strong word. That just goes to show how much I hate it. Okay? I hate it when things don't work properly and they don't function properly. It's not my thing. All right. Oh, wrong, 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 wrong. So that goes in there. That goes this way. So it's just so perfect, and everything's nice and just so perfect. And we're going to let this dry, and we'll come back and do our inside cover pockets. If it's hanging up in the air like that, leave it until it dries. Leave it alone, guys. Okay. Let me grab some supplies.